Hello. This is Empowering Democracy. And
Mm.
I'm your host, Joe Firestone, and I'm joined by my good friend, Dee Pierce, the host of Around the World with Dee and Friends. And of course, as many of you know, uh, there was an air attack in recent hours on 3 nuclear sites inside of Iran. And I'm going to put up the tweet from Donald Trump about that particular attack. Here we go, and I might as well just read that quote. At real Donald Trump, of course. We have completed a very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Now, I am quite sure there are more than 3 nuclear sites, inside of Iran. And so if there was only an attack on those 3 sites, then, in other words, the implication here is that those were the only 3 sites. I think they're not the only 3 sites. But anyway, it goes on. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs, that is capitalized, was dropped on the primary site. I have a comment on that. I don't know what he means by a full payload of bombs. We need to know more about the specifics to be able to understand what that actually means. It's the type of marketing statement that Trump excels in. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, all I have to say about that guy is,
What can you say?
to this matter. What you could say is, what a schmuck.
Exactly.
You could say. I mean, this
It's
putting that
ridiculous.
kind of tagline. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for attention to this matter.
Matter.
This is foolishness.
Total foolishness.
Okay, now, there are already some scenes of big fires that are claimed to be from Fordo, and claims by people closely associated with our military here that Fordo was totally destroyed. We, of course, are not in a position to know whether this is true yet. There is a message that appeared. Dee actually posted a message, a little while ago with some information on it. And I'm going to post that now. I'm going to share that now because it's got some information which is relevant. Let me bring up a post on Facebook. And what it says is, this is from one of the Iranian television stations. The 3 nuclear facilities in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan were evacuated some time ago. Iranian television also says no nuclear radiation is expected, and all of the enriched uranium has been previously transferred from nuclear facilities. So if that statement is true, even if these attacks on the three were completely successful in destroying the capability of to enrich, the stocks that had already been enriched were transferred. So there was no success in destroying them if that statement from Iranian television is true. Now, of course, we've also heard that all kinds of air attacks are going on all over Iran right now. We have no information on the extent of those attacks and whether they're successful or not. One source I saw opined that those attacks were by American planes, and the Israelis were not involved. I have no idea whether that's true. I suspect it's not true, that the Israeli planes probably were involved to some degree. But regardless, okay, the attacks on Iran by American planes and by the bombers, what they amount to is that a state war now exists between Iran and the United States. Now, we have to say clearly, we have to state this extremely clearly. There's no declaration of war by the United States.
No.
Any declaration of war has to come through the Congress. So this attack by the United States, another sneak attack, of course, and we can call it a sneak attack because last we heard from Donald Trump, he said he was going to wait for 2 weeks. Now, many people thought he was not going to wait for 2 weeks, and that he was likely to attack on this weekend.
Yes.
We have been confirmed as correct that he was attacking, this weekend. So an attack was expected. Obviously, the Iranians did something to prepare for the attack.
Yes, they did.
Specifically closing down the facilities and transferring their stockpiles to other areas.
And I know Russia had offered to take the stockpiles that they had, some of the enriched uranium.
Yeah,
I remember reading about that. They talked about that if that would, when they wanted to have, when they were negotiating about that, Russia had told Iran they would take it and safeguard it, whatever. So because that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's a possibility that some of it was given to the Russians. Okay, and there's also a possibility that it was transferred to other storage areas, in the country. Okay, at this point, we don't know. Right
now, I have to say, I'm just going to say that Iran's Fars news agency reports that, in quote, part, EART, of the Fordow nuclear facility was subjected to an enemy airstrike. So they said part of it.
So part of it was subjected to an enemy airstrike. So the implication is that all of it is not gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, only part of it is gone. Or at least that's one possible implication of that particular statement.
Yeah, that's coming from the Cradle, which is also Iranian news.
Oh, is the Cradle Iranian? I thought it was, out of Lebanon.
Let me see something. Maybe it is, but the Cradle, I thought it was, I'll have to take a look.
Okay. Okay, that's all right. But anyway, as we are live tonight, I am sure many new facts will be coming in from all over as uh, the damage, okay, is discovered and become transparent. Also, I'm sure the Iranians uh, were doing their own strikes on Israel tonight, and we're probably going to get, lots of news about the success of those. And those strikes, of course, had been becoming increasingly successful as days, uh, have gone by. So we'll see if there's continuing success of those. But of course, the Iranians are now going to reorient
Mm-hmm.
their attacks to our air bases inside of the Middle East, probably to our carriers.
And we were forewarned.
And we were forewarned about that. Okay, the Nimitz is in the area, we understand. And the Carl Vinson, I believe, is also in the area or due to arrive. So I'm sure the Iranians will direct attacks towards those particular sources. I know you can hear me, but my picture is in various stages, okay, of disarray right now. I mean, I'm frozen. I don't know why. Okay, I'm frozen. Uh, okay, obviously my memory is I'm getting into trouble, with respect to my memory. I'm going to get rid of one source that's possibly grabbing memory. And let's see what that does to my picture. Well, I shifted a little bit, but still not doing very well here. Let me see what I can do about that. I got a bunch of memory hogs up now, of course.
Mm.
I can't pinpoint what might be causing this. So maybe it'll clear up as we go forward. Anyway, you can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have too many people here. Please share, like, and subscribe, because I think the news that's coming in over the wire from the mainstream won't be factual. It's going to be narrative, and it's going to be narrative that's basically coming out of the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe says, well, it's a good profile of you. Thank you, Joe. I didn't mean to be showing my profile. Okay, so I think a lot of news is probably happening on Twitter right now.
Yes.
So let's see what we can find out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just on the cradle. The cradle says West Asia.
Okay, all it says is West Asia.
Yeah, they cover West Asia.
All right, but it doesn't specify where they're based.
No.
Right?
No, they don't.
I'm pretty sure the editor is, Lebanese or maybe Syrian.
But they're very quick. They're very quick to get. Well, I guess they have different reporters in different areas, so they're very quick with getting info out.
I find one thing that's interesting. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the reprehensible Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Mm-hmm.
Every time America's on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war.
Mhm.
There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear armed country. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer. And she shows the prayer sign.
Mhm.
So, a very clear message from Marjorie Taylor Greene, which I must say I entirely agree with
Yes,
on this occasion. Uh,
she is good when it comes to not wanting war.
there's a statement from the military of Iran, and what the statement quotes an Iranian official. Fuel ships will not pass to Europe through the Strait of Hormuz. So they're blocking the Strait of Hormuz, which they had threatened to do, of course, and fuel ships will not pass. By the way, fuel will still be going to China because there is now a railroad link, and so they will be sending fuel in. Brian Allen, let me share my Twitter feed because that seems to be, that would seem to be very useful to do right now.
And with the Hormuz, they had said that if the U.S. was going to escalate and get involved, they were going to close that because of the ability of the U.S. Navy to get in that area.
Yeah, they were going to close the straits, yeah. And I was sure they were going to do that, and they're going to attack the bases in. Just in, Iranian state TV just aired a chilling graphic titled "Win the Fire Range of Iran," showing U.S. bases that are lit up across the Middle East. Yeah, but we've been aware of that, and we've discussed this on this show quite a few times. There are some 68 bases sitting in the Middle East, and all of them are within the range of Iranian missiles.
Mm-hmm.
The warning was direct. Mr. Trump, you started it, we will end it. So, there's that. And Mel also identifies herself as Village Crazy Lady. Says, so apparently Susie Wiles has isolated Trump in the White House. He's receiving intel exclusively from the CIA director,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ratcliffe, John Ratcliffe, okay, and General Eric Kurilla of, he's the head of CENTCOM, and he's been wanting to attack Iran for some time because he's due to retire soon, and he wanted to be able to be, militarily involved in any attack before he retired. Anyway, Ratcliffe is the man the CEO of AIPAC described as, quote, our lifeline inside the administration, unquote. And last October, Adelson's newspaper, Israel Ayom, called General Kurilla, quote, vital asset to Israel, unquote, and, quote, Israel's favorite general, unquote, after he visited the country at least 5 times in 6 months from April to October. So, breaking, U.S. military now briefing troops that its strike on Iran, quote, will likely result in counterstrikes on U.S. bases and facilities in the Middle East, and, quote, likely activate Iran and other foreign terrorist organization cells abroad, including the U.S., to conduct strikes against the U.S. U.S. persons and facilities, unquote, per Ken Klippenstein. Okay, we really have to point out here. I think it's very important to point out. Okay, that the nation of Iran is not a terrorist organization,
No, it's not.
whatever the United States has to say. Okay, it's a nation. It has a government which is a legitimate government from the standpoint of most of the nations of the world. It's a member of the UN. It's a signator of the NPT treaty. Uh, it is in no way a terrorist organization. Neither is Hezbollah a terrorist organization. Neither are the Houthis terrorist organizations.
Hmm.
This is just a label the U.S. throws at organizations it does not like.
Hmm.
The terrorist activity of the U.S. every day throughout the year is more frequent than terrorist activity by Hezbollah or Iran or the Houthis or the Iranian militia. If you look at normal definitions of terrorism accepted by the international community. Okay, Rashida Tlaib tweets, President Trump sending U.S. troops to bomb Iran without the consent of Congress is a blatant violation of our Constitution. And she continues in a meme coming out of her office. The American people do not want another forever war. We have seen where decades of endless war in the Middle East gets us, all based on the lie of, quote, weapons of mass destruction, unquote. We are not falling for it again. I hope she's right. Instead of listening to the American people, Trump is listening to war criminal Netanyahu,
Yes, he is.
who lied about Iraq and is lying once again about Iran. Congress must act immediately to exert its war powers and stop this unconstitutional act of war. I have to say here, even if Congress were to act, and I think there's going to be quite a fight in Congress, but they'll probably end up not acting, but supporting Trump. But even if they do not, even if they condemn what he's done as unconstitutional and refuse to support it, I think Trump is going to go on with it anyway, in defiance of the Congress. And the only way they're going to be able to get him to stop it is if they impeach and convict him. That is what is necessary now. Okay, Desolation Angel says American exceptionalism is exceptionally stupid. We're the only country to drop nukes on people, yet we're delusional enough to think we have the moral authority over other sovereign nations. I stand with Iran. Fuck Israel and fuck Trump.
Okay, I have this from Mint Press News. Mint Press News from 5 hours ago. It said the Pakistani Zambian announces they will enter the war if the U.S. attacks Iran.
Well,
So far, the Yemeni Armed Forces, Islamic Resistance in Iraq, and Hezbollah have all announced they are ready to take action in solidarity with Iran.
okay. I think that's all cool, but of course, the Pakistanis now have a decision to make because their statement was made before the attack.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have a decision to make about whether they're going to go through with it. If they do go through with it and they declare war on the United States, they are, of course, a nuclear power.
Yes.
Iranian sources now confirm Fordo is intact. This is from Thomas Keith, who is his address. His Twitter address is at I was never here. Anyway, he says Iranian sources now confirm Fordo is intact. Only 2 munitions struck surface level access points. No deep penetration. no cascade collapse, no reactor kill. Fordo was built to withstand a nuclear war. A single flyby doesn't erase hardened bunkers buried 80 meters deep behind reinforced um, um, uh, um, uh, uh, mountain rock. This wasn't a successful strike. It was a narrative app aimed at markets, voters, and momentum. But the physics of Fordo don't bend to spin. So even though this is secondhand, that's the first response we've seen, from the Iranian sources, if they can be believed or trusted. This was primarily a PR operation. Now, if that turns out to be true, I would not at all be surprised,
Mm-hmm.
because Trump often does PR operations that have no deeper reality.
And here it has that, according to Israeli Broadcasting Authority, a security source reported that Netanyahu and Trump held a phone call just hours before the U.S. strike on Iranian facilities amid a state of high alert across the region.
Okay, and we have something from Dropsite News on Twitter. Update: Iran says nuclear sites were evacuated ahead of strikes,
Mm-hmm.
according to
Yeah, so that's two sources because I had that information too.
Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan nuclear sites had been evacuated prior to the strikes. He reports that Iran maintains there's no risk of radiation, as high enriched uranium stockpiles had already been moved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that, of course, is good. Here's a picture of the U.S. strike on Fordo. It doesn't look like it was a nuclear strike. The telltale mushroom cloud is not there. Okay, here's something from the military of Iran, Daily Iran Military. Fordo has been completely emptied and evacuated for several months now. A statement, from Ilhan Omar, quote, the strikes on Iran ordered by President Trump and executed without congressional authorization mark a dangerous and reckless escalation of an already volatile conflict in the Middle East. Quote, military strikes will not bring peace. They will only provoke more violence, destabilize the region, and endanger U.S. troops and civilians. We've seen what happens when diplomacy is sidelined in favor of bombs. It only brings more death and destruction. Quote, Congress must vote immediately on Representatives Thomas Massey and Senator Tim Kaine's war powers resolutions when we return to session. The American people are tired of endless war. We need to end this madness before more lives are lost.
Okay. And while this is going on, Israel is still sending missiles and injuring Palestinians in Gaza.
Yes, that's still going on. We've got to keep at least some of our focus on that, because that's the worst war crimes since the Second World War, and it keeps on going on day to day. Sure, go ahead. Okay, the U.S. just declared open war with Iran. This is the, quote, peace president, everyone. This is from Danny Ifan.
Mm-hmm.
It's barely 6 months, and we are closer to a nuclear World War III than we have ever been. Yes, especially with Pakistan coming in on the side of Iran. There has
Yes.
never been a war in history where 80% of the country has been destroyed, 100% of the population displaced, and 50% of the deaths of children. This is a tweet from Mohammed Safa. Call it what it is, genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, indeed.
And I have to say too that Iran is attacking Israel too, so that's still going on.
And here's a tweet from John Fetterman, who in recent months has gone crazy. And he says, I've long maintained this is the correct move by POTUS. Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have nuclear capabilities. So evidently there is at least one senator on the Democratic side who's not going to vote for the conviction, of Donald Trump. He is heedless
Mhm.
of the fact that Trump has clearly violated the Constitution.
And it has to do with
And
there have
that
been hundreds of APAC calls coming in.
and that violation of the Constitution alone is enough to justify the conviction of Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Speaker Mike Johnson, military operations in Iran should serve as a clear reminder to adversaries Donald Trump means what he says. Another congressman who was not bothered by the fact that the president has started an illegal and unconstitutional war.
Because APAC's in their ear.
And Zell Squirrel has tweeted, a fanatical Zionist asked Chomsky if he believes Iran having a nuclear program is an existential threat. Chomsky replies, no. The existential threats to the region and humanity are Israel and the United States. And Chomsky was right on the button about that.
Mm-hmm.
And Marco Rubio retweeted Trump's tweet. And Morgoth tweeted, Tehran looks more like it's European than London. And there are pictures of women walking around without their headscarves, dyed hair, uh, and so on. It does look like London.
It's just what the media projects to us, wants us to think.
Yes. Well, I think the media wants us to think the opposite, but
Exactly.
I think the reality was illustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Jones says Trump knows Iran has the bomb. Bullshit. He doesn't know anything of the sort. And Pete Hegseth retweets Donald J. Trump's tweets. So, while we're waiting for more news to come in, let us go through some of the pieces that we originally scheduled for tonight.
Okay.
In particular, there was an interesting piece. Let me see if I've unfrozen yet. It looks like I have unfrozen a little bit. I'll remove myself from Twitter for a moment. I'm going to bring back something that I got rid of a few minutes ago. Just put it up there. Okay. Okay, there was a blog post from Larry Johnson actually a few days ago. Uh, it's, I think, significant. On the 19th of June, 2025, as everybody knows, today is the 21st of June, 2025. Larry posted this on the evening of the 19th of June, so it's not 2 days old as yet. And here is what looks like a destroyer. Oh no, it's a Chinese surveillance ship in the Persian Gulf. Larry says, here's my prediction. Donald Trump will change his mind at least 3 times in the next 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Trump did nothing to calm fears that he has lost touch with reality when his press secretary uh, uh, um, uh, 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 um, Caroline Levitt announced that Trump would make a decision on U.S. participation in war with Iran within 2 weeks, since there was still a chance for negotiations. That makes sense. The Zionist crowd in Washington and Tel Aviv are chirping that Iran is just a week away from building a nuke. Well, they better stop Ritter on that score. He thought they were 3 weeks away. But anyway, so Trump wants to delay action until Iran has a nuke.
Mm-hmm.
This would be high comedy in a Monty Python sketch. But Trump is literally playing with nuclear fire. Some suggest he's just doing his art of the deal shtick, but creating uncertainty about his intent to start a new war with Iran strikes me as insane. Me too, Larry, me too. Making matters worse is that CIA Director John Ratcliffe reportedly told colleagues he believes Iran is pursuing nuclear weapon capabilities. He compared the situation to football players at the 1 yard line attempting to score a touchdown. Now, look, these people have no way of knowing that. They have no way of knowing that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Iran was trying to get there because of the actions of the United States over the last 4 weeks. I mean, they have every justification in the world for going there. But for decades, they have had a fatwa in place that says they cannot do that because it's against Shiism. And the Ayatollah has stuck to that for 20 years. And of course, in March, our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, briefed Congress that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. She presented the consensus judgment of the analysts from the CIA, the DIA, the NSA, the Department of State Intelligence and Research, and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Larry points out, if the CIA did not agree with the briefing presented by Tulsi, Ratcliffe should have issued a written dissent. Tulsi then would have been obliged to inform the Congress there was no agreement within the intelligence community about Iran and its progress on building a nuke. That did not happen. What we are seeing now is Ratcliffe pandering to Donald Trump and undermining the credibility of Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Tulsi recently, of course, has been tweeting agreement with Trump. Now, whether that agreement is motivated by any reality or motivated just by a desire to keep a job, we have no way of knowing. Anyway, Vladimir Putin made some news on Wednesday, continuing with the article, while speaking to a group of foreign officials in Moscow when he explained that Russia had offered to sign a defense pact with Iran, but Iran declined to do so. According to Alistair Crooke, President Pezeshkian still held out hopes for improved relations with the West and believed that signing such an agreement would antagonize Washington. He now realized he was foolishly naive. Putin has made it clear that it is prepared to help Iran defend itself by providing air defense systems. I mistakenly believed, I did too, that Russia provided some S-400 systems to Iran last October, but Putin said that was not the case. So far, according to Putin, Iran has made no requests for additional assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to go out of the article for a minute, I've seen some reports that even though Iran has made no request for that assistance, that Russia began on its own to ship a number of S-400 systems, and I don't know if there are S-500 systems in there too, to Iran for the purposes of air defense. Because Putin acted on his own initiative in this respect. I dare say the Iranians will be accepting those systems going forward. Going on with the article, China and Russia spoke on Thursday about the situation, about the Iranian situation. Both leaders, quote, strongly condemned Israel's actions, unquote, against Iran, stating they violate the UN Charter and international law. They affirmed that the current crisis, including Iran's nuclear program and recent strikes, quote, must be resolved exclusively through political and diplomatic means, unquote. Well, they affirmed that and they called for that, but obviously Mr. Trump thought it was best to ignore their suggestion. That's me, by the way. Going on with the article, she called on, quote, major countries, implicitly the U.S., to step up diplomatic pressure for de-escalation, seek an immediate ceasefire, and ensure civilian evacuations. Both leaders agreed that there were mediation efforts that should take place, with Putin, offering Russia as a mediator, a proposal she endorsed, quote, as a means to de-escalate, unquote. Though China's own statement did not explicitly confirm this, Mr. Yushakov added that Putin and Xi will, quote, keep in close contact in the coming days, particularly as the situation evolves. But Russia and China are doing more than just talking. A senior defense official arrived in Tehran earlier this week and met with Pezeshkian and his Iranian military counterparts. We have no readout on what they discussed. The Chinese, for their part, dispatched two ships, i.e. the PLA 815A and 855 electronic surveillance ships, to the Persian Gulf. 815A, for example, can track planes and missiles, guide missiles, and conduct electromagnetic interference and intelligence analysis. I don't believe that either country will remain passive observers if the U.S. decides to launch an attack. Israel erupted into a flood of crocodile tears today, claiming that the dastardly Iranians bombed a hospital. Larry says, man, talk about chutzpah. The Soroka hospital was damaged by a blast wave from an Iranian missile that directly hit the adjacent, quote, Israel Army's Command and Intelligence Headquarters, known as IDF C-41, along with a military intelligence facility located in the Gaviam Technology Park, unquote. No one in the hospital was killed by the blast wave. This is a drop in the bucket compared to the carnage the Zionists have inflicted on Gaza. At least 36 hospitals in Gaza have been, quote, bombed and burned, unquote, by Israeli strikes since October 7th, 2023. According to the UN Human Rights Office, from October 2023 and December 31st, 2024, there were 136 confirmed attacks on 27 hospitals. plus 12 other medical facilities. The World Health Organization, WHO, reports nearly 700 attacks on healthcare facilities occurred during this period, averaging about one hospital attack every 16 hours. Over 94% of all hospitals in Gaza are now damaged or destroyed per UN statements. And then Larry links to a video he did that he and Garland Nixon did discussing the Iranian situation. So let's go back to Twitter now and see if there's any new information. I'll go to the head of my feed now. I'm sure there is. There were 35 new posts. There's a post from Elizabeth Warren. The United States should not wage war against Iran. Donald Trump's bombing of Iran is unconstitutional. Only Congress can declare war, and the Senate must vote immediately to prevent another endless war. This is a horrific war of choice. And AES Politics 1 says, this is the greatest mistake I've ever seen by a president since Bush. Okay, and there's a bomb. No, that does look like, no, it's a smaller mushroom cloud that you would get from a nuclear blast. I don't think Trump has used a nuke. Someone tweeted a map of Florida circling West Palm Beach and saying, "Dear Iran," he's on the golf course.
I heard that's going around. A lot of people are posting that.
Yes. John Cusack said, by attacking Iran directly, the United States has thrown the world into the kind of terminal chaos known as World War III, most likely. They can't win unless they put boots on the ground. So misery and death are going to reign. Well, I certainly agree with that tweet, but he also should have said, we can't put boots on the ground. We don't have the boots to put on the ground.
No, we don't.
We have a small army. It's scattered across the world. We're certainly not going to get all the soldiers from all over the world. All of them are not fighting soldiers anyway. Only about a third of them. If 150,000 of them are real soldiers, that's a lot. And I'll tell you, 150,000 soldiers that are entering Iran are going to be slaughtered by the IRGC without even the participation, of the million-man official army of Iraq. There's nothing 150,000 soldiers can do.
No. And we know that he most likely would do that, the draft. They talked about that, the drafting both male and female.
Then from Defense Intelligence, which is a private site, a statement from what looks like Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, retired. But anyway, the tweet says, Iran's underground Fordo nuclear site isn't just secure, it's nearly untouchable. Analysts say it'd take 10 B-2 bombers striking in under 3 minutes to even make a dent in it. I'm going to play what Tony Shaffer has to say.
Uranium enrichment site or
I can't hear anything.
I'm sorry, did you say you couldn't hear anything?
Right, sounds like a muddled type of thing.
Yeah, so the sound is not coming through.
Right.
So, anyway, I just told you what Tony Schaffer said.
Hmm.
Okay, Tony Schaffer is a respected military planner. Thank you, Barney.
Sorry, I didn't even realize.
I know. So,
Well, her sound came through, so some sound will come through.
yeah. Oh, well, her sound came through, but she's right in this room.
Okay.
It's a Twitter sound that did not come through.
Okay.
That's why. So, I am shocked that President Trump, oh, this is from, from Representative Betty McCollum of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's the first district in Minnesota. I'm shocked that President Trump made the decision to bomb 3 nuclear sites in Iran without authorization from Congress. I believe the president's action to be unconstitutional because Iran did not pose an immediate or direct threat to the United States. The president publicly stated there was a 2-week window for diplomacy. It appears the president had no intention of honoring that public timeline. This decision by President Trump has now put U.S. forces in the region at grave risk of retaliation by Iran and its proxies. At the very least, the president owes an immediate explanation to the American people for why he has taken direct military action against Iran absent congressional, um, um, absent an authorization by Congress. He can't make an explanation.
No.
I mean, his explanation is that he is dictator Trump and he can do anything he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
When are people going to learn that particular lesson? I mean, not that he is dictator, but that he thinks he is. Okay, so.
Okay. On Telegram, Press TV.
Yeah.
You can maybe just go over to Press TV, but it has Iranian TV presenter claims that only the entrance tunnels were reportedly damaged and that the main facility at Fordo was not harmed in recent U.S. airstrikes.
Okay. I'm bringing up Press TV now. Okay, Press TV Live. Let's see. There's a video. I don't know if I want to play a video, but let me see. I'm going to click on Iran. See if it's under politics. Oh, evidently 5 days ago, Israel asked Iran to stop its attacks, through an intermediary, and to return to nuclear talks. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, this is where Iran was saying, the different leadership was saying they don't trust anything that comes out of from the U.S. and I'm sure Israel as well. They've been lied to, on numerous occasions.
I don't see anything on the attack yet on Press TV.
Okay.
So I don't think they've come out with anything yet.
Well, I saw it from the Telegram channel, so maybe it's not over on the other yet.
Yeah, I clicked on live. Let's see what the live is there.
And of course, Sean Hannity's lying. It says here, Sean Hannity, Fox News. Fox News host Sean Hannity claims the U.S. has, quote, obliterated Iran's Fordow nuclear facility using 5 to 6 bunker buster bombs dropped by B-2 bombers. According to Hannity, the Natanz and Isfahan sites were struck with 30 Tomahawk missiles launched from U.S. submarines. That's what Sean Hannity is claiming.
Yes, that is.
In the early hours of this morning,
Can you hear the sound on it?
sites in
Yes.
Natanz and Isfahan were subjected to a brutal assault in clear violation of international law, particularly the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, by the enemies of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This action, which contradicts international law, has unfortunately occurred under the indifference and even complicity of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The American enemy, through statements made by the president of that country via social media, has taken responsibility for the attacks. All right, well, I'm going to stop right there because the American president has just started addressing the United States. Let's listen in.
Key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roads.
Oh, bullshit.
That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States
Asshole.
military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say,
Oh, leave God out of it.
we love our great military, protect them. God bless the Middle East, God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, D, you got any comments on that load of bullshit?
Okay, calls himself
In infuriating.
Amen.
Infuriating. And I was like, leave God out of it.
Yeah.
And to say this with Netanyahu and all, I mean, it was just so much bullshit.
Yes.
Lie upon lie upon lie.
Starting from the record of Iran as a terrorist organization, going through various things the U.S. has done over the years, mischaracterizing them as, as somehow, legitimate, lying about the success of these attacks. How do I know it's a lie? Well, we have the immediate statement of Colonel Schaffer that they couldn't have breached Fort Dow with the kind of attack they had. Okay, it couldn't have been successful, and the Iranians have confirmed that only the entranceway to the facility was damaged. It won't take more than a day or two to clear that up. Now, I think one issue that arises out of the attack, tonight is, why was the electronic warfare of the United States so successful in clearing the way for the bombers? And what is Iran going to do about that? What can it do about that? Because the next time the bombers come over, the Iranians had better have a solution to that. Okay? Those bombers are slow. They go at 650 miles per hour. I believe the Iranians have, or should have, quickly the capability to knock them out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been done. There should have been no attack, even if it was unsuccessful, on those three sites. I'm glad Iran has taken the precautions it's taken, but that doesn't excuse the fact that their air defense system was incapable of stopping the bombers. They need to find out why. So that was one comment, that I had on this. Trump seems to think that he can use this bombing as a negotiating ploy with Iraq. But he's not looking for a negotiation. He's looking for a surrender. He's not going to get a surrender. Instead, what he's going to get, is a mouthful of missiles sent to our bases all over the Middle East. He's going to get a mouthful of missiles sent to our carriers. I don't even think that the war so far with Israel has touched the stock of missiles the Iranians have.
It hasn't. They've got a lot.
They've got a lot still left. I think enough to take care of the bases, and I think enough to take care, of Israel. And by the way, they may not have 30-ton bombs, to drop, but they have two warheads that are 2-ton warheads on their missiles, on some of their missiles. A 2-ton warhead can dispatch an aircraft carrier, if that's it. And those newer missiles of Iran are precision missiles. They'll be able to hit the aircraft carriers if they get information from the Russians about where they are. And rest
Exactly.
assured, they will get that information from the Russians and Chinese
Mm-hmm.
because their satellites have it. So I don't think this is going to go very well. I think it was an extremely stupid move
Beyond stupid.
for Mr. Trump. But uh, well, it remains to be seen what the consequences are going to be. Oh, I guess we're getting people coming in now. We're up to 89 folks. So that's good. Okay, Joe Logan has a number of comments. He says Trump is having people arrested by ICE if they look like they're from south of the border. They don't even look at IDs. They just cuff them and put them in the back of a truck. I've seen this happen very close to where I live in California. It's communism like Hitler in World War II. I don't think Hitler was communism in World War II. What does President Trump care about the United States Constitution? Well, that's obvious, but the rest of us care about it. I think the courts even care about it to some degree. Jeffrey Denton says, not just resent. Steve Wolfbrand says, Doc, it's nice to see you back. Was I gone? But thank you.
Well, yeah, I guess because you're not here all the time like you were before.
Oh, okay. Steve says Israel is riding its damage, but I've been back on Tuesdays and Saturdays, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Just haven't been back on Thursday because I've had other things I've had to do. Evelina says Iranian source only entrance and exit to Fort Dow Tunnel has been damaged. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Natanz is intact also, and that Isfahan is intact too. But it remains to be seen. Mr. Wonderful says, hello, everyone. Hello, comrades. Evelina says, bombers. U.S. bases are a target now. They are. And we still have 3 years of this guy, Steve Wolfbrand says. Well, we have 3 years of this guy if, unless, of course, his polls keep on crashing and the Republicans keep on getting afraid of what's going to happen in 2026. Then enough people can be shifted, okay, to get rid of him, as I've been saying. It would take a shift of very few votes in the House, okay, to get rid of him, but you would probably need 21 Republican senators to shift over. I say 21 because obviously Fetterman is going to vote against the impeachment of Trump. So we're probably going to have that. I'm going back to Twitter now to see if we can get some more news from Twitter. Honey, can you get that? It's Devore. So.
Coming.
Okay, we've got another 35 posts that came in.
Sure. I kind of expired before they started cutting the cake, but it was pretty and it was cute.
Okay,
and-
Devore, I'm streaming, please.
Sorry.
So Laura Loomis says, that was my daughter, by the way. She just got back from a wedding. Laura Luma tweeted, Donald Trump is going down in history as the most influential president in U.S. history. There was no greater. Shame on those of you who called him a warmonger. He just saved us all from a nuclear holocaust. And then she says, good bless him. Evidently, she spelled God wrong.
Yes, please. Like I always say, leave God out of it.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have spelling errors.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Ritter says he bombed 3 empty facilities using the most sophisticated strike package in the U.S. arsenal. 2, specifically Natanz and Isfahan, had been previously struck by Israel. The third, Fordo's, it's actually Fordo, is intact. You are truly dumber than dirt. The 60% enriched uranium is intact. The IR6 and IR8 centrifuges are still intact. All sensitive equipment, Devora. Okay, excuse me a second, folks. If you want to talk, go in there. I'm streaming. Okay. All sensitive equipment was evacuated and is in secure storage. The only thing that is preventing Iran from going nuclear is Iran, which doesn't want a nuclear weapon regardless of how much you want them to have one. Trump is a national disgrace, and you are a national embarrassment. Okay, the you here, of course, is Laura Loomer. And Douglas McGregor says, Iranian media network reveals Fordow nuclear site was emptied and evacuated for months. I have to mention something else. In relation to the Israeli attack on October 26th, it was stated at that time that their attack on the Parchin site was very effective and a lot of stuff was destroyed at that time. What Alistair Crooke had to say 2 days later was that the Parchin site had been abandoned by the Iranians for 2 years before the attack. Okay, we have a similar situation here, except that there wasn't a 2-year gap. There was only a few months gap. Okay, evidently, the Iranians anticipated, these attacks. And their stuff was not there anymore. Now, the question is, where is it? And do we know, does our intelligence know? No, I don't think our intelligence knows. Treasury comment, that's not about this, so I'm not going to read it. But, Scott Bessent is his own special idiot. Anyway, the Iran military tweets, footage of the U.S. strike on Iranian nuclear facilities has emerged, and you're now seeing some of the explosions. There's, I guess, 30 seconds of footage on that. I don't know what you can tell from the 30 seconds of footage. I certainly can't tell anything. Scott Ritter says, in active theater, Trump's big mouth has boxed him into a corner. Iran wouldn't play his game, so he had to bomb Iran to save face. He bombed 2 empty facilities that had been previously struck by Israel, and he bound 6 bombs off an indestructible facility, Fordow or Fordos, he calls it. That's it. Okay. A quote contained unquote strike, a nothing burger. And this is the man whose supporters call the greatest leader in the world. He's a national disgrace.
Exactly.
He is. Breaking, CNN reporting the Trump administration only notified Republican congressional leadership and Intelligence Committee chairs. Democrats were not informed. Just in, Israel PM Netanyahu is practically giddy, praising Trump for what he calls an awesome, quote unquote, and quote, righteous, quote unquote, strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Quote, congratulations, President Trump, unquote, he says, quote, you acted with strength. This will change history. Yes, it will change history, but in a negative way. And Sahar Imami says, Iran didn't just prepare for months, it spent years planning this. Israel never imagined attacks would come from those directions. Now, Iran's Navy waits silently. Yet let the U.S. enter, their warships will sleep on the ocean floor. I'm afraid that may be true, because as I've said before, I think the Iranian missiles can easily take the carriers out. The bases may be a little more difficult, but they have the missiles to take care of those two and deliver really disastrous damage.
Mhm.
AOC tweets, the president's disastrous decision to bomb Iran without authorization is a grave violation of the constitutional and congressional war powers. He has impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations. It is absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment. Well, I said that myself earlier, didn't I? So, leaked audio. AIPAC CEO brags about how AIPAC controls Trump's national security officials, such as Marco Rubio, Ratcliffe, okay, and Mike Waltz, who was caught spying. America is occupied by Israel. That was a tweet from the Gray Zone. So,
Yeah, this is all part of the Greater Israel Plan, too.
it is part of the Greater Israel Plan. Okay, Congressman Richie Torres, who's been bought many times over by the Israelis, hundreds of thousands of dollars from AIPAC. The world can achieve peace in the Middle East or can accept a rogue nuclear weapons program, but it cannot have both. I suppose he means by the rogue program, the Iranian program. Then he says the decisive destruction of the Fordow fuel enrichment plant prevents the dangerous spread of nuclear weapons in the world's most combustible region. No one truly committed to nuclear non-proliferation should mourn the fall of Fordow. So Richie is now committed to the narrative from the president, and the Pentagon. So probably he too would vote against impeachment if the vote actually came up.
Yep, it's that powerful AIPAC money.
It is breaking from Iranian television. Quote, stay away from American bases. Okay, so a tweet from someone who wants to end wokeness. He calls himself that anyway. He says, this is how women are forced to dress out in public in Iran. We have to liberate them. And then he says, just kidding, it's Michigan. Because evidently a bunch of women are marching in chadors. Kyle tweets, impeach the vile, demented warmonger now. And that is a little clip, from Bernie Sanders, who is talking against the oligarchy. So Defense Index tweeted, breaking, experts warn that if Iran's Fordow nuclear facility is struck, it could trigger a major nuclear disaster due to underground enrichment operations. The risk of radioactive fallout is real. Well, that may be, but since all of the enrichment fuel was shifted somewhere else, it looks like there isn't going to be any leakage.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Steve Bannon, quoted by Grace Chong of MBI, said, "My issue isn't whether Iran has a nuke. My issue is that Netanyahu, for his own political dilemma, created a false sense of urgency. He pushed the salesman upsell. We have to have regime change. This is the Iraq war all over again. It's phony, okay, and obvious." And the Yemen military said Yemen will officially enter the war. Keep your ships away from our territorial waters. Okay, breaking. Iranian media claims they shot down an Israeli F-35. Well, maybe they did and maybe they didn't, but if they did, it's the fifth one that has been lost so far. I believe the Israelis have only 50, so that's 10% of their Air Force. We don't know how many of their F-35s have been damaged on the ground
Mm-hmm.
during the war so far. It's clear that they've been targets of the Iranian missiles because the Nevatim Air Base, where they sit, has been a target. And Antonio Gutierrez, Secretary General of the United Nations, has tweeted, "I'm gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States against Iran today. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge and a direct threat to international peace and security. There is a growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control, with catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world. I call on member states to de-escalate and to uphold their obligations under the UN Charter and other rules of international law. At this perilous hour, it is critical to avoid a spiral of chaos. There is no military solution. The only path forward is diplomacy. The only hope is peace."
Mm-hmm.
Hard not to agree with that. Of course, I don't think we know how to get there. Uh,
This whole thing is the U.S. wants to control, the U.S. hegemony. They want to control. And also the Zionists want to control as well. They've got their Greater Israel plan. So these are just hegemonic plans.
okay, Terrence Cudney, one of the Red Berets, as am I, has said, Trump had strikes carried out by U.S. bombers on previously evacuated nuclear sites, including 4 down Natanz and Esfahan, likely with payloads insufficient to destroy the facilities. This is an ineffective PR stunt that might start World War III. In what way is this worth it? Hashtag Iran. In no way, okay, is it worth it. It just escalates the risk. So, okay, here's a Laura Ingram tweet. She says the target's not thousands of feet deep, it's likely 200 to 300. That's within reach. With B-2 stealth bombers, okay, and other bunker busters, we can hit and destroy those underground sites. This was said, by Jason Redman. And there's a graphic of how the bunker buster bomb actually works. Okay, so I understand that the Fardo facility or the Fordow facility or Firdos, whatever it's called,
Mm-hmm.
okay, is 80 meters deep That's something like 240 feet deep. So whether that's within the range of the bunker buster bombs uh, is debatable. Also, we have to consider that it's not, simply a number of feet under that counts, but also the protection for the for the facilities. I understand they're all constructed with very heavy and thick concrete, and the bunker busters have to get through the concrete also. So it may be the Iranians are right, and that the facility underground was not really touched. If they are right, then it would very easily, they would be easily capable to reconstitute the facility and go on, with the enrichment. But as I said at the start of the show, don't think they have only 3 facilities. I'm sure there are more like 7 facilities throughout the country. Haven't seen anybody else actually say this yet, but I seem to remember this from all the things I've gone through. If that's the case, then that's another reason why this is just a PR stunt. So. Then there's Colonel Tony Schaffer again, who says it'd take 10 B-2 bombers striking in under 3 minutes, to even make a dent in it. I tend to believe Colonel Tony Schaffer knows. We'll get confirmation from other sources, though, pretty soon of that. And Sahari Mami says these visuals show the exact moments the U.S. forces carried out illegal strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities in Natanz and Isfahan. This is aggression under the banner of silence. And these are pictures of the explosions.
Okay.
And Mike Levin has made a statement on this. I don't know, if this Mike Levin is a Democrat or a Republican. I think he may be a Democrat from California. But he says, we cannot allow any president to entangle the United States in another deadly and open-ended war without constitutional authority. Iran must never obtain a nuclear weapon. I wish they'd quit with that bullshit. If Iran were to obtain a nuclear weapon, they would be no more dangerous than Pakistan. Why does anybody assume they would be more dangerous than Pakistan or the United Kingdom or France or other countries, that have a nuclear weapon?
Well, we heard all this when before North Korea got their nuke.
Yes,
they were constantly on North Korea all the time.
We haven't seen anything from North Korea in the way of offense because they have a nuclear weapon. I mean, let's face it. The truth is that if Iran had 10 such weapons, the only effect would be to deter attacks from Israel. That would be the only effect. The Israelis would be more afraid to attack them, and the Iranians would never use their nuclear weapons because they wouldn't be attacked. And that's exactly what the supporters of Israel and the Republicans are trying to prevent. They're trying to prevent a nuclear stalemate between Israel and Iran. And we need such a nuclear stalemate. The reason why we do is we need more stability in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So these idiots are advocating for more war and more instability. They are not advocating for peace.
No, they are not. And it's all about money. You know, you look at the weapons manufacturers, there's a bunch of groups that are going to profit off of this. And human life has no value whatsoever.
Yep. Okay, so Asen said, Hannity, I just spoke to the president, Hannity said. I have new information. It appears the United States just completely obliterated Iran's top secret nuclear facility with 6 huge bunker buster bombs. 2 other nuclear sites were wiped out with 30 Tomahawk missiles launched by submarines 400 miles away. What nonsense.
You know, it's such a liar, and then the audience is going to eat it up.
For a while.
Yeah.
But eventually they will learn, okay, it is not true. And then hard realities will surround them. Kerry Burgess says Scott Ritter is spot on with this analysis. Israel went all in on a quick decapitation war. That strategy has failed. Netanyahu has just bet the farm on the roll of the dice, okay, and lost. Yes. Speaker Mike Johnson says the president made the right call, did what he needed to do. Leaders in Congress were aware of the urgency of this situation. Commander-in-Chief evaluated the imminent danger outweighed the time it would take for Congress to act. The world's largest bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
That is bullshit. Because even everybody admits that it would take weeks for the Iranians to get a nuclear bomb if they wanted one. But even if they got one, there's no reason to think that they would immediately use it. What they would do would be to threaten Israel, and Israel would respect such a threat if they had, a nuclear weapon. This bullshit about the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. They're not the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. We are.
Exactly.
Whose terrorism do we sponsor? We sponsor the terrorism of Al-Qaeda-related groups, such as those in Syria and those in North Africa. Okay, and those in the Sahel. That's the terrorism that we have sponsored. We have sponsored terrorism in Syria. We sponsor terrorism in Iran right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are the main sponsor of terrorism in the world today, not Iran. The president fully respects the Article 1 power of Congress. And tonight he does. Well, then why didn't he go to Congress for a declaration of war? And tonight's necessary, limited, and targeted strike follows the history and tradition of similar military action under presidents of both parties. Yes, it follows the history of military actions under presidents of both parties. They too were illegal.
Right, illegal.
And never respected the Article 1 power of Congress to declare war. That was true of Libya. That was true of our actions in Syria. I mean, that was true of the killing of Soleimani in the first of the Trump administrations. That was true in relation to the attack on Panama in the Reagan administration. None of these attacks were questions of emergency.
No.
There were no emergencies in any of those situations. Every one of those attacks needed to be approved by Congress. And the stretching of the authorization of military force of, I forget whether it was 2002 or 2003, to cover every situation of conflict since that time has been an outrageous and unconstitutional extension of the constitutional power of the president. Other presidents should have been impeached for that. And the fact that the chicken-hearted Congresses would not uphold the Constitution is what has led to the president's attacks, today. If George Bush had been impeached when he should have been, we wouldn't have had this today. This is the consequence of Congress giving up its power to declare war over many, many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this actually started under Harry Truman. It goes back that far.
Mm-hmm.
Iranian officials. Fuel ships will not pass to Europe through the Strait of Hormuz. Brian Allen. They had us all watching Guam, but the real show was already underway. While headlines fixated on B-2s headed west, the U.S. sent another squad east straight to Fordo. According to Fox's Jennifer Griffin, the Pentagon pulled off a masterclass, in the area of misdirection. Yes, maybe so. Bannon. Iraq wasn't a failure of intelligence. It wasn't an honest mistake. It was a bald-faced lie. You were lied to. President Trump told the world told the Bushes that. That's one of the reasons he's president of the United States. And we're getting bald-faced lies right now, says Steve Bannon. This was courtesy of the Grace Chong, who did the tweets on behalf of Bannon. Terrence Cudney says, and he's right about this, Biden refusing to re-enter the nuclear deal with #Iran is a big part of why we are here. For shame.
Mm-hmm.
And Terrence is quite correct about that. Quite correct. And I should be retweeting his tweet. Okay, so D, is anything coming up on Telegram?
I just posted some stuff, but they do have Press TV posted some stuff here. It has at present approximately 50 large oil tankers are attempting to navigate out of the Strait of Hormuz. The oil industry appears to anticipate that this vital waterway may be closed in the near future. Consequently, it seems likely that oil prices will surge.
Ah, yes, I'm quite sure that is what's going to happen.
And then there's a clip, Joe. I really don't see it because I have it on my phone, but it says, Press TV says first footage emerges from Fordow after illegal U.S. strikes on the nuclear site. So even on a even where you're on X, Press TV has an X page.
Okay, let's search for Press TV's X page. Search. Well, let's see. I've got another 35 posts here. Let's see if Press TV comes up. Oh, by the way, there's a Ray McGovern tweet. Note to Tulsi Gabbard. Have you no sense of decency? At long last, have you left no sense of decency? Will you continue to snivel.
Hmm.
Oh, you quit, if only to preserve what little is left of your honor. And then uh, in the lower part of the picture of Tulsi is the statement, Tulsi Gabbard is a warmongering asshole. That tweet was from, oh no, the picture was from, Caitlin Johnstone. Oh, so Kyle has a little picture. Someone labeled Trump shoots Iran and then says, now is the time for peace. So there's not a lot of stuff. Press TV is not coming up on my feed, so, but there is something from breaking. Yemen ready to attack all American ships and warships in the Red Sea. Individual in the image is Yahya Saree, the spokesman for the Houthi movement and their self-proclaimed Yemeni forces. This is not a proclamation from the official Yemeni government.
Mm-hmm.
The original post suggests. Well, that is true, but the question is, what is official about a government that controls only 20%, of Yemen and is not resident in the capital city of Yemen, but is resident in Riyadh, instead?
Hmm.
It seems to me the more official government is the one that controls 80% of Riyadh. I shouldn't say Riyadh, 80% of Yemen, and seems to have almost a monopoly of the armed forces inside of Yemen. So I don't know if that's the official government, but I think it might as well be. Well, I'm going to look for the Press TV right now.
Okay.
Press TV. See if I get something like that. See what I get. So I can do Press TV or Press TV IR or Press TV Extra. There are 3 sites. I think I'll try Press TV IR. Wait a minute. No, Press TV has more followers, 444.6K. Press TV Extra, 25.6. So I'll take the site with most of the followers.
Okay.
That's probably the right one.
Oh, this is pinned.
Yeah.
28 seconds ago.
Representative Norma Torres, U.S. representative, says President Trump illegally attacked Iran without congressional approval, saying the American people will be forced to pay the price for his recklessness. He bypassed Congress and the Constitution. Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
first footage emerges from Fordow after illegal U.S. strike. So you're seeing that footage on the screen, okay, right now. It doesn't appear to be very revealing. But it's only about 20 more seconds, so most probably we'll see an explosion. Someone is driving by. No explosion yet. Okay, so Trump says, I don't plan to conduct more strikes on Iran after our strikes on the nuclear sites. Well, of course, what he says can never be taken, okay, as credible. If he decides to carry out more strikes tomorrow, he will carry out more strikes tomorrow. Press TV quotes George Galloway. If I was running Iran, I would definitely get myself a nuclear weapon. George Galloway says Iran has been extraordinarily patient regarding the threats it faces as it is confronted by countries that all have such weapons. Yes, George Galloway says that. Well, probably the Iranians can have a nuclear weapon within a few days if they get one from Pakistan. As far as I know, Pakistan doesn't have any hypersonic missiles. I may be wrong about that. But if the Iranians get such weapons, mount them on their hypersonic missiles, then I think that will deter both the United States and Israel. I have to agree with George Galloway. It took days for the United States to prepare this attack on Iran. It strikes me that as soon as Iran heard about the preparations of the United States for such an attack, it should have gotten some of the Pakistani bombs from them to use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and place them on some of the warheads, and then announced it a day ago. And then I don't think there would have been any further Israeli attack.
And the problem is we're dealing with people that aren't thinking, because you had in Israel, there were peoples that, who was it? Ben Gvir, for example, was saying that they weren't aware of the weaponry and the strength of Iran. They were thinking it was going to be like a 6-day war type of thing, that Iran didn't have the powerful weapons they have.
Who was thinking it was going to be a 6-day war? You mean the Israelis?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Ben Gvir himself said that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That Ben Gvir himself said it. But I think Netanyahu, was probably more aware. And he probably didn't care because his objective was to get the United States involved.
Exactly.
was to get Trump involved and the United States. That's what he wanted. And he didn't care about the cost of, getting the United States involved. So,
And Israel itself is also going across Syria as a way of their plans with Iran. And they've gone through and, bombed different villages and stuff like that. So it's just crazy.
so Safari Mami is saying, Commander of Iran's Aerospace Force declares, tonight the entire world will witness the strength and resolve of the Islamic Republic, unquote. A clear warning that Tehran's patience has run out.
Because they didn't use their most powerful stuff.
Yeah. So, here's a tweet from Colonel McGregor. It's actually from Michael Tracy. You can't make this shit up. Colonel Douglas McGregor spoke at the September 24 Trump Maha rally in Washington, D.C., and urged everyone to vote for Trump because U.S. soldiers were, quote, preparing to fight a war against Iran, unquote. And by voting for Trump, you'd be voting for, quote, peace, unquote, instead. Yeah, Doug McGregor did think that Trump was the better choice in the last election. Scott Ritter also thought so. Judge Napolitano also thought so. I think even Colonel Wilkerson thought, had hopes that Trump, is going to be better than Harris. Okay. As for myself, okay, I did not think so. As those of you following this stream know, okay, I was against them both, but I also thought that if it came down to a choice between them, that Harris was the better bet. But I have to say that that was just based on, on intuition. I mean, I just thought that she would be more likely to pause when it came to starting wars, okay, or leaving them, going on. Okay, I had no hard evidence. The choice between the two of them was a terrible choice because it was bad, okay, on both sides. I don't blame those people who thought that Trump, would be a better bet for peace. I think it was just a terrible choice. And the only real choice was for people to vote a third party. But by the end of the election season, there was no choice because the polls were showing there was no appreciable support for any of the third parties. So individuals making a choice had to make what they thought was the best choice among the two horrible candidates. And I can't really blame people who voted for Trump in that particular context. But I have to say, I'm not surprised to find that Trump turned out to be just as bad as they thought that Harris would be. That's not really a surprise at all. So I'm looking for new information at this point. Okay, I don't see it.
Okay, what about the cradle? Cradle's on X as well.
Okay,
Well, that's what you had to dump the incumbents. You talked about it and the importance of it, and you can clearly see why it's important because you have donors.
yeah, you could clearly see why it was important to dump the corruption. If we had done that, okay, if we had dumped the corruption and had a successful campaign, then one of the third party candidates would have been elected for president. And we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now.
And Trump, like I said, his numbers have been going down, and they're going to continue to go down. He's got that wing of his party that are isolationists. They don't want this. They voted for him thinking he wasn't going to get the world involved, that we were going to get away from
Yes.
this type of foreign policy.
So there are a number of tweets from the Cradle. The Cradle says perception versus reality. What the Israel-Iran war actually reveals. While Tel Aviv pushes a narrative of nuclear urgency and strategic necessity, the axis of resistance sees a bold strike against the hegemony of the West. Breaking, U.S. President Donald Trump threatens Iran with more bombing, the ultimatum being, quote, peace, unquote, or deadlier, U.S. attacks.
Trump's mind, his mind is bullying for peace.
Yes. Fox News, Sean Hannity claims the U.S. has obliterated. Well, we read that before. I don't think we're getting any new information from the Cradle. They seem to have about as much information as we have now. Here's something new. Explosions heard in Tabriz and eastern Tehran as well. And then a tweet, who was attacking hospitals? Iran recently targeted Israeli military intelligence sites located in close proximity to Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. Anyway, we know that the hospital was basically a human shield in that case. Here's some information on what the IRGC was doing tonight. Tonight, in this 19th wave of True Promise 3, a vast swarm of attack and suicide drones set off hours earlier towards strategic targets across the Israeli regime, from the north to the south of the occupied lands. The war on the Zionist regime confused their defense system to be on alert. This operation will be continuous and escalatory, disrupting their balance. Allah willing. Iranian state TV announces the launch of the 19th wave of Operation True Promise 3. So there were a lot of, Shahed drones, a 136 drone and Biat Shayan, also known as Bezan, arrived in Lower Galilee today. And that's just sort of a video of an explosion arriving. Israel has renewed attacks on Iran, many of them via Iraqi airspace. Air defenses are active in Tehran and have been active for over an hour in Isfahan and Tabriz, with heavy strikes reported in western and southwestern regions. So, okay, so I don't think there's much new information there either. I didn't want to cover one more thing, at least. This is from the Substack of Alistair Crooke, the Conflict Forum Substack. Okay, I will share this. Now, because it makes a very important point. We have 96 folks here now, so we're doing pretty well. I'm going to go to the comments in a minute also. Okay, there was an allegation of the nuclear state, okay, of Iran, that had a role in starting, the Israeli, Iran war. And that came out of a Palantir counterintelligence type of algorithm. The IAEA board's non-compliance resolution on the 12th of June, 2025, was the planned precursor for Israel's, quote, a bolt from the blue strike on Iran the next day. Israelis say the plan to go to war with Iran was grounded in, quote, the opportunity, unquote, to strike, and not the intelligence that Iran was speeding towards a bomb. That was the peg for war. The sudden claim of Iran being very close to a bomb that seemingly jumped out of nowhere, quote unquote, to leave Americans puzzling how it could happen that in the blink of an eye we're going to war, was subsequently refuted by IAEA Chief Grossi to CNN on the 17th of June, but only after the abrupt attack on Iran already had taken place. Quote, we did not have any evidence of a systematic effort by Iran to move to a nuclear weapon, unquote, Grossi confirmed on CNN. His statement drew the following riposte from Iran by its foreign ministry spokesman, Esmail Baqai, on the 19th of June. Mr. Grossi, this is too late. You obscured this truth in your absolutely biased report that was instrumentalized by AE3/US to craft a resolution with baseless allegation of Iranian, quote, non-compliance, unquote. Same resolution was utilized as a final pretext by a genocidal warmongering regime to wage a war of aggression on Iran and to launch an unlawful attack on our peaceful nuclear facilities. Do you know how many innocent Iranians have been killed or maimed as a result of this criminal war? You turn the IAEA into a tool of convenience for non-NPT members to deprive NPT members of their basic right under Article 4. Any clear conscience? Question mark, unquote. To which Dr. Ali Larijani, advisor to the Supreme Leader, added, when the war ends, we will hold the director of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, accountable. And the Russian Foreign Ministry made a statement too in relation to the escalation of the conflict. It was precisely these sympathizers, quote unquote, EU3, who exerted pressure on the leadership of the IAEA agency to prepare a controversial comprehensive assessment of Iran's nuclear program, the flaws of which were subsequently exploited to push through a biased anti-Iran resolution at the IAEA Board of Governors on the 12th of June 2025. This resolution effectively provided a green light to actions by the Israelis leading to tragedy, i.e. to the sneak attack on the immediate day after the 13th of June. So, I did want to make that clear, and I did want to ask simply the question, how can we have, an NPT which is dependent on the IAEA and the objectivity of the IAEA when we have this history of its issuing a biased report that was one of the immediate causes for a war? In other words, what is the viability, the future viability, of the NPT agreement? Because what happened here is that the IAEA used information that it had gotten from an inspection of the Iranian sites to inform the Israelis of facts that they then used as an excuse for the attack on Iran. This suggests that something has to be done about the IAEA,
Definitely.
because it is the heart of enforcement of the NPT treaty. But it can no longer be counted upon to be an objective, I don't want to say enforcer of the treaty, but it doesn't enforce the treaty, but its honesty in dealing with the various parties is certainly critical to the effectiveness of the treaty. Without that, there is no treaty that anybody can count on. And the Iranians, having had the experience of being screwed in the way that they were screwed, are probably now going to abandon the NPT, simply withdraw from it, and not be bound by it any longer. And what will the effect of that be? It will be that we will not know anything about what the Iranians are doing in relation to their nuclear program. There'll be a complete state of ambiguity. That in turn is going to increase the likelihood of war. So the IAEA has shot the NPT in the foot, and itself in the foot. How can we have any future confidence in that particular organization?
And I was going to say, this is the point where North Korea comes in, because North Korea would not let anybody in their country. They wouldn't let inspectors in.
And they benefited from that.
Exactly.
They definitely benefited from that.
And the sad thing is that here Iran always complied with everything, complied with international law. He was always in compliance.
Yes. Well, we have some comments and we should begin to consider those.
Okay.
A few. Uh, Steve Volbrand says, God is good. Laugh out loud. Earl Verl says, Mr. Wonderful, hello. Wayne Santelban says, if they lose Ayatollah through a precision strike, Dr. Joe, that would be a huge blow spiritually to the regime. Okay, evidently the Ayatollah has taken steps to select 3 possible successors so there can be a very quick vote on a successor to himself, if he is killed. Certainly his death would be quite a blow, to the regime there. But at the same time, they're prepared to recover from it very quickly, and the anger should carry them along until they can get a successor.
Yes, and the thing that he had stated, he said, about the West making a big deal about taking him out. He says, I'm an old man. I'm an old man. I spend a lot of time sitting. I don't have the ability as the younger generation does. He said it's the youth, the younger generation that's doing the fighting. He says, not me. I'm an old man.
Yes, he's right, of course. He probably realizes that his time has come, but he wants to leave a legacy.
Yes.
Evelina asks, wonder if Trump will also do his Iran and empty surrounding bases. Is this a possibility, and which ones? I don't know if it's a possibility. I think the Iranians will immediately start to attack the bases tomorrow. And I don't think that the United States is prepared to evacuate them all tomorrow or next week or next month. So I think they're going to be vulnerable to attack for some time to come. And we've got, 40,000 or so U.S. personnel at these bases, and they're going to be vulnerable. And the bases, of course, are in Iraq, they're in Syria, and they're all through the peninsula, the Arabian Peninsula. They're in Qatar, they're in most of the countries there. There's a base of one sort or another. Evelina says empty bases, which are potentially a target. Earl of Laurel, so Mr. Wonderful checks in and says that Earl of Laurel, hello, comrade. Gutsy, Mr. Wonderful, how do you fare? The spelling of fair, Earl of Laurel, is Fare in this case. Mr. Wonderful, Earl of Laurel, I am good considering the circumstances. Cheers. Reportedly, David Barnea, the Mossad chief, was killed during the bombing by Iran of the Mossad headquarters. So there's a significant loss for Israel. Laura says, Mr. Wonderful, good to hear. Chairs. I had no confidence in any of the candidates. I was hoping for Stein, but had no confidence after her VP pick. An open letter about Assad and Putin. She made zero effort to see either of them. Yes, I know she had problems. Certainly, Jill Stein had problems. Cornel West had problems. Some of the other third-party candidates had very serious problems also. Earl Laurel said, Mr. Wonderful, I voted for her because I wanted to vote for someone. But I knew it was symbolic. I wrote in these nuts time before. I feel the same. L. Stephen Day says, here. Enrichment is 60% versus 90%. Earl Laurel says, fear spelling Nazi. I am a stickler for spelling, I guess. I think it's important. Anyway, okay, there we are for the comments. Uh, let's go back to Twitter and see if there's anything new that appeared there. I found that I closed my Twitter. I think I had to do that, but I can go back to the beginning to my feed and see what's. Layla Charles Lay points out the decision to attack Iran was made in October 2023. No restraints on genocidal Israel, no calls for adherence to international law. This is bigger than both of our corporate-owned parties. It's fucking horrific. The U.S. empire must be brought to heel if we're to have any hope. Well, yeah, I think she's right.
Mm.
And that's Matt Waldy says, this is the same smarter move. And he reposts a tweet by Angelo Giuliano, who's a colleague of Brian Berletic. Angelo says, why should Iran strike back at the U.S. when Israel is desperate for America to confront Iran? Israel is desperate. It's weakened, especially after the recent spanking attack from Iran. The one Iran should strike and strike hard, okay, is Israel. What Trump wants is for Iran to strike back. That gives him the casus belli he needs to justify striking Iran, and come to the rescue, okay, of Israel. I think Angelo is right about that, but Iran, from a political point of view, has pressure on it to go through with what, it is promised, said, that
Mhm.
by the United States, it was going to attack all the bases. So there's political pressure inside Iran to do that,
Yes, there is.
to keep its promise, and that's an overwhelming kind of pressure. But Angelo here is assuming, I think, that Iran has to make a choice, or that it should make a choice to confine itself to the weaker party, which is Israel, and not give the United States an excuse. Problem with that, is that the United States doesn't need an excuse. It didn't really have an excuse this time. Its whole rationale for attacking Iran was manufactured. It attacked anyway, even when its best intelligence said that Iran did not have a bomb. It still attacked. It claimed an emergency when there was no emergency. So if Iran has the capability to strike hard at both the United States and Israel, perhaps it ought to do both.
Mhm.
It has considerable capability. I'd still argue that if those bombers come again, by the time they come again, the new S-400s could be in place, and those bombers could be knocked out of the sky. And if they are, there's no capability for the United States to deliver, a serious attack on Iran. I shouldn't say that. There's capability from the submarines. not from the Tomahawks, because they are not as destructive as the missiles the Iranians have. Okay, but of course, the submarines would be able, to deliver a nuclear blow to Iran if the United States wants to escalate that far. Now, I don't think, again, to talk about the Harris versus Trump thing, I don't think that Harris would ever have escalated to a nuclear attack. You can't say the same thing about Trump. I just can't say the same thing about Trump. So there is that. We are living in a dangerous situation. Okay, Raphael Lal says, Angelo, I agree fully. The U.S. wants an excuse to topple Iran. Iran should lay low and rebuild itself. Continue attacking targets in Israel, but refrain from attacking the U.S. I don't know about that. I think that Iran does have the capability to drive the U.S. out of West Asia.
Yes, they do.
It does have the capability to sink the carriers. I think if it sinks 2 or 3 of the carriers and knocks some of the B-2s out of the sky, what will the U.S. do then? I mean, I'm not sure what Trump is going to do then. But a lot of his advisors will have been discredited, at that point. Now, of course, that is a very dangerous sort of situation. And he might, simply react out of anger and frustration and do the stupid thing of, of starting a nuclear war. But also, that kind of failure might cause him to reconsider and to recognize that he doesn't have the power to stay in West Asia. And if the Iranians could make that happen, that would be a wonderful result. Anyway, I don't see any new information. Kev Marr tweets, it doesn't matter, Angelo. The U.S. makes up casus belli if the wind blows in the wrong direction. They control, the mass media narrative. In this country, they do. And still too many people are naive enough to believe it. But I agree, better to smash Israel far more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Israel is more dangerous to Iran, and that they should keep their focus on smashing Israel. They're so close to completely smashing Israel.
Right, because there is that hegemonic plan,
Yes.
the Greater Israel plan.
Yes. Okay, it's about 11:30 now, and it looks like the action for tonight is probably over, except for the action between Israel and Iran.
Yes.
And Iran is performing a serious attack on Israel now with its drones. So we have to see what the results of that is. Earl of Laurel says, so as to sum up, the United States has chosen to escalate global tensions in unprecedented ways again. Yes, in order to protect Israel. That's what this is about. It's about protecting Israel's interest, not the United States' interest. Because why? Because the donors. It's about these donors who don't put America first.
No.
Mr. Wonderful says, what is Harris saying about this attack? I don't really care what she's saying about this attack. Earl of Laurel says, Mr. Wonderful Harris has condemned, the attack upon Israel. How can you condemn the attack upon Israel when the Israelis attacked first?
Exactly. And any country that's attacked is going to respond.
And they have the right to respond. Okay, I think at this point I'm going to call a halt to this.
Okay.
We have done all we can for tonight.
Yes, we have.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Attendance was again very, very good. And so thank you all. Thank you all for coming. I will see you again on Tuesday. I think Dee will probably have programs between now and Tuesday.
Yes, I will.
Okay, I'm sure Madeline will have a number of things that, she wants to say again.
Yes, she does. I'm sure she does.
And that she'll get a chance between now and Tuesday on Dee's show.
Yes.
And Mr. Wonderful says, at Joseph Firestone, Empowering Democracy, another great show. And somebody said, yeah, it's insane. I don't know who said that. Let's see. Earl of Laurel said, yeah, it's insane. Mr. Wonderful said, Z. The Earl of Laurel says, thanks so much, guys. Earl of Laurel says, we're all in together. Don't watch Brazil. Why shouldn't I watch it? Brazil. Talking about the movie Brazil. That was a little odd movie, as I recall. A little odd movie. Very odd. Anyway,
Well, thank you again, Joe, for a great show.
and thank you, Dee, for helping me with this great show. In terrible conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I really had a good show planned for tonight, but it was based on the assumption that we were waiting for Trump to make a decision. Yes, it's a movie. I know. I've seen the movie. It's really good, but it's awfully depressing. I agree. I saw that movie. Okay, so I think it's time to say goodnight.
And Evelina says good night, all.
Evelina, yes.
Good night, Evelina.
Thank you for always coming and always being around.
Yeah.
I think we really appreciate that.
Yes.
That we both do for both of our shows.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
Because I know you're here for all of them.
Yes.
So again, thank you very much, Dee.
Yeah, thank you, and good night, Bonnie.
Okay, Bonnie is in the other room at this point talking to my daughter.
Yes, and say hello to Devorah for all of us.
I will say hello to her. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And good night, everyone.
And good night, everyone. And have a great night in spite of the very depressing times.
Yes. We'll get through this together.
We will. I'm going to end this.